The Kurakhov cauldron has snapped shut. There hasn't been a cauldron like this since 2022, with 5 elite brigades encircled. Good afternoon, dear friends. We continue to analyze the situation on the front lines with you in our daily format. So, friends, the front is not standing still, it is moving. Yesterday, I looked at the statistics for February. From the 1st to the 7th of February, the Russian army took control of 74 square kilometers of territory. That is, the average daily advance was slightly over 10.5 square kilometers per day. The main events are currently taking place in the Kharkiv region as well as in Donetsk. Today we'll start with the south and then move north, examining the key sectors of the front. Let's begin with the Kurakhov pocket. The situation here is very grim for the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF. They lost Davidov, and Russian troops have already advanced 1 kilometer west of Davidov toward Ulakli. As I mentioned earlier, there is a strong UAF stronghold on the way to Ulakli, so reaching the eastern outskirts of the village will require overcoming it first. However, the situation is even worse for the UAF in Andriivka. Look at the size of Davidov compared to Andriivka. The difference is enormous. Andriivka is a large village, comparable in size to the city of Sudja in Kursk Oblast. Nevertheless, the UAF is struggling to hold the defense here. It is crumbling. Initially, Russian forces entered the northern part of the village, and the UAF held off attacks for almost a week. However, over the past 3 days, the UAF defense has completely collapsed. As a result, Russian assault groups have reached the center of Andriivka, taken control of the central road leading to the bridge, and yesterday began pushing from the center to the western part of the village. As you can see on the map, they have advanced 1 kilometer from the center. Thus, at the moment, the UAF only controls the western outskirts of Andriivka, a few incomplete streets. That's it. In general, the fate of the UAF garrison is already clear, and even Ukrainian sources are openly writing about it. The UAF has suffered a defeat here. While they held the small village of Davidov for 3 weeks, from January 14th to February 5th, the fighting in Andriivka began on January 24th, 2 weeks ago, and the end is near. Again, Andriivka is 3, if not 4, times larger than Davidov. Why did this happen? The answer is actually very simple, and I've discussed it in my Telegram channel. Even before the fighting in Andriivka began, I posted videos where UAF soldiers from Andriivka complained about poor equipment, numerous wounded, hunger, moral decay, and so on. In short, they were not prepared for a tough defense, and this is now evident in practice. Interfluve of the Solina and Vovcha rivers, as of January 9th, advance of Russian forces in the village of Zaporizhzhia. The situation in this sector remains difficult. The opposing side has concentrated significant forces here, composed of combat-ready units. For the UAF command, it is crucial to maintain control over the flanks of their grouping, one of which is the village of Zaporizhzhia. Advance in this area is complicated, but Russian units, having occupied the eastern part of the village, a single long street about 2 kilometers, continue fighting for its center. Moving to the situation around Pokrovsk, the UAF has reinforced this area with significant reserves. 12 brigades to be exact. These are not just reserves. 12 brigades are now concentrated around Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad. These are substantial forces, which is why further advances have been stalled. Meanwhile, the UAF has begun probing the defenses, particularly in the Peshane area, attempting a counter-offensive. However, they have not achieved success, with equipment and crews being destroyed by drones. There is video evidence of this, but it's important to note that, given the forces they have concentrated around Pokrovsk, this could just be the beginning. Therefore, it's worth closely monitoring this sector in the coming days, which we will do together. Pokrovsk direction as of January 9th. UAF counterattack. Active combat continues on the Pokrovsk direction. Yesterday, an hour after the previous report was published, information about a UAF counterattack came in. Attacks were carried out on 2 fronts. Pokrovsk-Kotlin direction. The UAF attempted an advance along the road from Pokrovsk toward Kotlin, aiming to cut off Russian units near the village and create a threat of encirclement. The attack was repelled, and positions remained unchanged. Peshane direction. The UAF also conducted an attack in the Peshane area, which has become a tradition on this sector. The goal was likely to probe the defenses. This attack was also repelled. For now, relatively small forces are being deployed, so it's hard to say definitively whether this is the start of a large-scale offensive. However, such actions could be a warning of possible escalation in this area. On their part, Russian units have also conducted attacks in this direction, but without significant changes to the front line. Thus, the situation on the Pokrovsk direction is characterized by clashes where each side is trying to gain a tactical advantage. The outcome of these battles could have significant strategic implications. For Russian forces, the key task remains to contain and inflict maximum damage on UAF reserves approaching the city while holding their positions. Success in this confrontation could significantly influence further developments in this sector. We'll skip the Toretsk and Chasiv Yar sectors today, as we covered Toretsk in detail yesterday, and there are no significant changes in Chasiv Yar. However, there are changes in the Lyman area. Chernish has long been under Russian control, although, interestingly, Ukrainian media are trying to claim otherwise. Yesterday, I posted in my Telegram channel, "Look, they claim that the UAF is still holding some basements in Terny." Really? Meanwhile, Russian troops have advanced 800 meters from Terny and reached the next village, Yampolivka. Russian assault units not only entered the northern outskirts of Yampolivka, but also advanced into the residential areas of the village, including from the east. This entire pocket is not shown on some maps, but it is on American maps. In total, Russian forces captured 5 square kilometers yesterday, including Yampolivka. So all the talk from Ukrainian media about the UAF holding something in basements is frankly laughable. As for the right bank of the Zherebets River, the advance of Russian forces has slowed, and they have not yet entered Kolodezi. Now regarding the Kharkiv region, specifically the Russian army's bridgehead on the right bank of the Oskil River. We discussed this yesterday, but new developments are emerging daily. Just yesterday, we talked about the 3-kilometer breakthrough toward Vyholivka, and then important news came in. Russian forces advanced from Zakhidne in 2 directions. 1 kilometer west toward the R79 highway, which runs along a hilltop. Why is this road important? Capturing it would allow access to the next village, Rashkivka. Moving directly here would be suicidal due to the ravine, so the only option is to use this road. Reaching Rashkivka would push the front line 7.5 kilometers away from the river, allowing for safer pontoon crossings and faster deployment of heavy equipment. Additionally, Russian forces advanced 2 kilometers north of Zakhidne yesterday, reaching the same road. Thus, the path to Rashkivka is now open. Overall, this sector shows clear success for the Russian army and a clear failure for the UAF. Even Ukrainian analysts and media acknowledge that the UAF can do little here for now. Toretsk-Kostiantynivka direction as of January 9th. Situation. The opposing side's information resources did not stick to the strategy of downplaying the loss of Toretsk, Dzerzhinsk for long. By the evening of the previous day, it was confirmed that the city had been completely abandoned by UAF units. At the same time, the current situation suggests that the operational pause in this sector will be short. After a brief lull, Russian units may resume active offensive actions. That's all for today's Frontline update. I wish you a good weekend, take care, and see you soon.